Hey, Anya, or Anya's mom. So we got just a couple more minutes before we get started. Um, you guys might want to grab, if you have blocks, great. If you don't, that's okay. You might want to have a couple of pillows nearby. Um, you can wing it, but just in case. So today we're going to do a mobility routine, workout, whatever you want to call it. Of course, using breath work, some dynamic movement with some stagnant movement as well. Some of these, we're going to focus mostly on our lower body, our hips and our legs, but we're going to start standing. We're going to work through our chest some, because what tends to happen, you know, when we're working out, martial arts, whatever, we tend to round forward, and we really want to open up our chest, really get into get into our shoulders, at the same time focusing on our hips and legs today. So yeah, let's get started. Let's stand up. I'll have to make a couple of adjustments with my computer with a camera throughout, but just bear with me. As always, if you guys have any questions, concerns, something you want more of, less of, let me know, and I can definitely make that happen. So let's take a stand. So first we're just going to start with some easy, I'll show you the hand movements. Our hands are going to be above our head, but you're just going to open and close your palms. So we're getting into our shoulder joints here. It seems like it's kind of a, you know, silly thing to start a mobility workout with, but it really helps loosen up your shoulders. And you can also see where you're carrying tight, you know, where you're tight. If this is super uncomfortable, if you've got really tight shoulders, you can go ahead and open your arms a little wider and just make that movement more comfortable. You can also start to focus on your breath, inhaling and exhaling where you feel like is, you know, works for you. If you didn't hear me before, you may want to grab a few pillows if you don't have like yoga blocks. But if not, we can figure out a way. We'll just modify. So then go ahead and bring your arms down to your shoulder height. And same thing, you're going to turn your palms forward and then back. Yeah. And you can go slowly and just notice where the sensation might show up for you. Or you can move a little bit more rapid through these movements. Whatever feels good to you. And just focus on taking really nice inhales and exhales wherever you'd like to this practice. You can breathe through your nose. You can breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, whatever works for you. And then just go ahead and drop your arms. You can work through your hands here a little bit. And sometimes I'll have us just swing from one side to another. We're going to do that, but we're going to do it with a little bit more intention. So you want your feet hips distance or a little bit wider than hips distance, a soft knee. And then you're just going to turn from one side to the other. You can even come into, just move through this a few times from side to side. And then if you want to come into like your fighting stance, you can do that. And you can start to get your hips and your knees involved. Whatever feels, you know, feels good to you today in your body. You can start to speed it up if you'd like to. Once you start working through your spine, you may hear some little pops and cracks, and that's okay. You may notice some sensation as we're doing it. Just kind of go with it. And, you know, the difference between sensation and pain, no pain, but if something's uncomfortable, then, you know, I encourage you to just go with it. You're in your fighting stance, you can lift one heel and then the other. We'll do this for just a few more seconds here. just come back to the center. Again, shake your arms out. We're gonna roll our shoulders towards our ears and then down our back several times. Yeah. And then we'll move forward and back. And just move through your neck. You can start in one direction and then the other, making either half circles or full circles, just depending on how your neck feels this morning, or I guess now it's afternoon, whatever time it is. It all kind of starting to kind of run together these days. And just look over both shoulders and check in with yourself throughout this practice. Notice if you're holding tension in your shoulders that you don't need to. Notice if you're holding tension in your face and your jaw, and just see if you can let that go. A lot of times all you have to do is smile. You can bring the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth. That's helpful too. So now we're gonna come into a forward fold, but I want to show you the difference. So it's not your typical just coming into a forward fold. We're gonna bring our hands behind our head. Your elbows are gonna start to come toward the center. You're gonna drop your chin, and we're just worried about like hinging at our hips. So I'm not coming all the way down into a fold. I'm gonna stay about right here. And you should notice a nice stretch once we start moving a little bit in the backs of your thighs. So keeping your chin tucked to begin with, you're just gonna make some tiny pulses. You'll notice that I probably have a little bit of curvature here in my spine, and that's okay. That's what we want for today, or right here in this practice. So your elbows are working towards each other as you're moving towards your thighs. Then you can start to release a little bit further. If you have a bend in your knee, which is awesome, you can, if you'd like, you can start to straighten them a little bit more, and just notice the more you straighten, how you start to feel that sensation in your legs. You want to keep your chin tucked. We hold a lot of tension in our lower backs and our legs seem to stay pretty tight. So working through some of these mobility exercises will help with that. You can start to open your elbows just a little bit, maybe get a little closer with your chest to your thighs here. You may notice that the backs of your legs are starting to warm up a bit. Continuing to breathe. And then just slowly start to roll back up to standing, pushing your weight into the backs of your heels. Nice. We're going to roll our shoulders back. If you can't quite interlace your fingers together, you can bring your palms facing towards each other. But if you can't interlace your fingers together, you don't have to completely straighten out your elbows, but start to straighten your elbows. Lift through your chest, looking forward, keeping your belly button towards your spine. Your hips and your knees and ankles should be in alignment here. And then just drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. Come back through center, and then left ear to left shoulder. And then come back. Releasing your bind, if you have one, you can just move through your wrist a bit. So this time bringing your hands to your hips. We're going to hinge at our waist. And if your fingers don't touch the floor, that's okay. You can bring those pillows into place. If you happen to have a block, you can do that. Or you can just allow your fingers to, be lifted off of the floor. So the typical cat and cow that we do in our tabletop position, I'm trying this way, is here we're rounding our chest, pushing our shoulder blades up to the ceiling, and then we come back, pushing our pelvis to the ceiling. So it's going to be that kind of that same movement today. We're going to bring our fingertips, we're going to bring our backs into a straight line. Breathe here for a moment. Bring our fingertips back down to the mat or to the pillow or block. And then you're going to pull your belly button into your spine, pull your chin to your chest, rounding through your upper back, and then release. And again, we're going to come up to this halfway point where everything is in alignment. Just check in with your spine. Your line of sight should be in front of you, or toward the floor in front of you. Take a breath. Exhale, releasing your fingertips back down towards the floor. Again, you're going to round everything so your pelvis is tilted forward, your belly button's into your spine, you're dropping your chin to your chest, shoulders are rounded. And then coming back to that flat back. And then just find a little bit of a bend in your knees, grabbing your opposite elbows, and then releasing into a full forward fold here. You can find some tiny movement. You can shake your head yes and no. Just trying to find some space in this pose in your hips. Noticing what sensation comes up for you. And no judgment, just observation here. Notice if you start to hold tension in your shoulders and your face. And then just continue to breathe. Releasing your hands back down to the mat, and then we're going to slowly roll up to standing. All right, I'm going to make just a little bit of an adjustment here so you guys can see me. And we're going to come down to our tabletop position. Yeah. Come down to your tabletop. Start by pressing your palms into the mat. Again, your line of sight is still going to be in front of you, keeping your spine in alignment. Pulling your belly button. So you're protecting your core and your back. And then we're just going to move through some traditional cat and cow. So your pelvis and chin go to the ceiling. And then as you exhale, rolling everything forward. And again. Opening up through your chest here. And sometimes we like to move through this stuff really quickly, and that's okay. But sometimes it's really nice just to slow everything down and kind of check in and see what's going on in your body. Come back to that neutral spine. We're going to tuck our toes. And this is everybody's favorite, mine included. Walk your hands back, coming up into a toe stretch here. And sometimes you might need to manipulate your toes a little bit. And I encourage you to stay just a little bit longer. I know this pose sucks, but it's very good for your feet and for your circulation. See if you can hold out and just learn to breathe a little bit longer than you want to. And breathe. Coming back into your tabletop, you can tap the tops of your feet out. You can also sit back on the tops of your feet and maybe put your hands behind you, lifting your knees off the floor for an opposite stretch here. Okay, we'll do that one more time. So tucking your toes, walking your hands back, coming into that kneeling position. Thanks everybody for showing up, by the way. Showing up for yourselves. Breathe. Relax your shoulders down your back. We're almost there. Coming back into your tabletop. Again, tapping the tops of your feet out. We're sitting back on your feet. And then bringing your knees off the ground. Nice. And coming back here. So I've got two different options here that you can work at. If you have super tight shoulders, you may not be able to come all the way down. So maybe you grab a pillow or two. I'm just going to use blocks, but you can use pillows. And you're going to keep your hips elevated. Your elbows or your forearms are going to come down onto the blocks. And then you're just going to start to drop your chest to the floor. Now, if you have more room in your shoulders, then you may not need the blocks. Again, you can bring your forearms down here. You can bring your chin towards the floor, and pelvis is still facing the ceiling. But we're still opening up through the chest, regardless of which variation you're doing. You can take your hands a little bit wider if you need to. You can also, if you don't have pillow, or you don't want to use pillows, you can come onto your fingertips. If you're not able to come all the way down to your chest or your chin. And breathe. Nice. Coming back up to your hands, taking your knees wide, toes together, coming into a child's pose. This time extending your fingertips out in front and then bringing them above your head. So you can keep your hands palms together here, or you can place your hands on the backs of your shoulders. Again, noticing any sensations that come up for you. You can start to walk your elbows out further if you want to get a little bit more deeply into a tricep stretch. Notice where you're holding tension in your body while you're here. And then go ahead and release your bind, coming back up to your tabletop position. We'll move through our wrists a little bit, and then we're going to move into our hips. So just fingertips are going to face out to the sides, and you can just start to move from side to side here. If you need a little bit more, you can start to walk your hands closer together, almost like a little butterfly, and either with or without movement, just depending on what you're feeling in your body today. And taking your right hand, flipping your palm to the ceiling. Again, you can just stay in a stagnant stretch, or you can add in some tiny movements here, releasing through the tops of your wrist. One is not necessarily better than the other. It's just where you're getting sensation. And then release. And we'll move on to the left hand, flipping it towards the ceiling. Again, maybe you add in some tiny movements, or maybe you just stay right where you're at. Nice. Coming back through the center, fingertips return to their original position. We'll just take some little semicircles. So moving your bum to your heels. Maybe you make a full circle, or I guess it's still really a half circle. In both directions. Nice. And then go ahead and come down to a seated position. For some of these next movements, as we're getting into our hips, you might need a pillow. And the reason for that is if you have super tight hips, it's helpful. I'll show you at a couple of different poses, but you can just, we're working on the left side, maybe you have your left hip sitting on that pillow. And even if you have like pretty open hips, you might want to try it. It might help you open it another way, or maybe you don't want to push, as hard today, or you've been working really hard and like you just want to allow some of the props to do the work. So we're going to come into 90-90. I'm going to start on the right side. So right leg 90, left leg should be 90. Feet are facing. This one's forward, obviously. That one's out. You can't really see it. But it's a 90 degree too. We're focusing on this right side to begin with. Hands are going to be in front of you. We're going to start by opening up through our chest, like I said we were going to do. And then we're just going to gently start to move forward and then back up to center. And you're probably going to feel this in your right leg mostly. If you have those tight hips, you're going to have your pillow underneath, or your blanket underneath your right hip at this point. So you're just staying on your fingertips, bringing your chest over your shin. And then this time we're just going to come into a little bit of a longer hold. So you can just place your palms on the mat, or you can come down to your forearms depending on just where you're at today. And it can be a day-to-day thing. Like one day you're like, yeah, everything feels great. And the next day it's like, no, nothing feels good. And that's just the way we are. Just kind of got to roll the punches. Coming back up to a seated position, keeping your left leg the way it is in that 90 degree. We're going to extend our right leg. Again, pillow might be helpful here. You might have to adjust this left leg just a little bit. You're definitely going to feel some sensation in these movements because most of us don't go around sitting like this. So just be mindful of that. And some of the movements, as we get a little bit more deep into the practice, if it's weird, it's like your brain is like, I don't know how to do that. So be patient with yourself if it doesn't happen all at once. And in this, we're going to activate our toes. So you want to keep your toes pointed to the ceiling. The heel is going to be into the floor, even if you need to bend your knee or you need a pillow under your knee. That's what we're going for. And then just walk your hands towards your heel or towards your ankle. We're not trying to go super deep into a fold here. We're focusing more on keeping our toes activated and really pressing into that floor with our heel. You'll probably notice a sensation on either the underside of your leg or on the right side through your IT band, through your calf. Walking your hands back up to a seated position. So we're going to keep our right leg long. You're going to bring your left knee toward the ceiling. And this is kind of an awkward thing. It feels weird. It feels weird in your hip. If you need to like extend that leg and come back into it, that's okay. We're not going to be here too long. Activate your right foot, keeping those toes. Hands are going to come out in front. Maybe your fingertips, or your hands are tented with your fingertips just on the floor. Maybe your palms are all the way in the floor. Pulling yourself forward. It's not going to be a very big movement, but you definitely should feel this in your hip. Keeping that foot, your right foot active. Pressing your left foot into the floor or into your mat. And then just breathing. Coming back up to the center, extending your left leg out. So now we're in a wide leg stance. Doesn't matter if you can't see that foot. Same thing, you're gonna bring your fingertips out in front and we're gonna do seated cat and cows this way. So you're dropping your chin, you're rounding through your shoulders. And then as you exhale, you're opening up your chest, bringing your chin toward the ceiling, pushing your heels into the floor. Again, dropping your chin to your chest, coming into a rounded position. Then coming back and opening up through your chest, bringing your chin toward the ceiling. And one more time. And then opening back up, really pushing through your heels. Nice. Walking your hands back up to seated. This time you're going to bring your right heel into the floor. Left toes are flexed toward the ceiling. Bringing your hands in the center. You may have to, walk your foot around a little bit. And just notice the different sensations that come up on this side. Coming back up to center, we're gonna move onto this left side. So your left leg is gonna come into the 90-90 position here. This time you're gonna extend your right leg behind you. So your knee might stay at a bend, or you can take it out to the side here. Let's see if I can get you guys a better view. So 90-90, and then this foot is either gonna be straight or it can be out to the side straight. You want to try and get that knee straight. If you can't, that's okay. Upper body is going to be facing here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your toe, you're going to roll forward, bringing your chest towards your leg, coming onto your right toes. You should feel a really big stretch on this left side, and then come back, bringing your foot back on the ground, your right foot. Again, rolling forward, bringing your chest over your leg, coming onto your right toes, and then release. And then one more time, coming onto those toes. Release. You're going to bring your right leg back in or into this 90-90 position, and we're going to do the stuff on this side now. So just coming in, bringing your fingertips to the floor. We're going to just take some tiny pulses over our left leg, like we did on the right side. And then this time we're going to hold. So you can stay on your palms, you can stay on your fingers, you can come down to your forearms here. Again, you're probably going to have some sensation on this left side. And just breathe. Walking your hands back up to a seated position. This time we're going to extend this left leg out in front. Toes are going to stay active. Pausing here for just a moment, noticing anything that arises, notice any type of feelings on this side versus the other. And then we're going to come into that forward fold on this side. Again, we're not trying to get our chest or our head to our leg. We're staying somewhat upright, but by flexing our toes and really pushing into our heel and then our opposite leg, you should feel a nice stretch up your calf, maybe even your IT band. You may notice that you have more mobility on one side than the other. Like I have more mobility on this side than I do my right side. That's just the way it goes. Coming back through center. Again, bringing that right knee to the ceiling. Foot stays on the floor. Toes pointed toward the ceiling. And this time just see, maybe you can walk your hands a little bit further away. Again, we're definitely not trying to get our chest to the floor here. It's not going to happen. I guess it could it's not going to happen for me. Let me say that. But we're focusing on keeping everything active, pushing into the floor with your right foot. Left toes are going toward the ceiling. Nice. And then just extending your legs, both legs out. You can just kind of loosen up through your knees a little bit, maybe point and flex your toes or make some circles here. Activating your feet, so keeping your feet active, rolling your thighs away, and then just see if you can come a little bit more deeply into this wide leg stance forward fold. You don't have to. You can use pillows, you can use blocks. If you have a big pillow, I don't know where mine went, this one's not very big, but you could hang out here in this number, but just keeping everything active. If you want to take it further, if you want to work on, coming into your hips more, maybe increasing like your range of motion with your kicks, then come down to your forearms or stretch your palms as far as you can. Again, keeping your feet active is going to help control the sensation here. And if it's too much, just come out. We're not going to be here too long. And breathe. Walking your hands back up to seated. Again, we're going to pull that left knee in. Toes are pointed. Again, placing your palms on the floor. You can start to walk that left heel in just a little bit more maybe. Maybe next class. And that's what I always tell myself. Then we're going to come back onto this right side. So you're going to come back into your 90-90 here. And this is one of those movements. Some of you guys, if you've taken my in-person class, you know, have done this. If not, it can be a brain, kind of a brain thing too. So just know that. But we're going to start. Gosh, I'm not making this better. All right, so left foot, you're going to start to put your weight into your right side, and you're going to bring your left heel off the ground. This is where that your brain comes into play. It's like, well, you want me to do what? So just lift your left heel towards the floor, and then back down. Do it again, and back down. One more time. And this one, just see if you can lift your heel, and maybe it's, you know, not very far off the ground. That doesn't matter. We're doing some hip, you know, moving through our hips in ways that we don't typically do. And then release. Last thing, you may have to lean, really lift over onto the right side. You're going to lift that whole leg off the floor. For 3, 2, and 1. Release. Nice. So go ahead and stretch that leg out for a moment. Take your left leg. Maybe you just bend. Maybe you just do some little windshield wiper. Then bring it back into that 90-90. We're going to focus on our right side. You're going to bring your fingers behind your head, and we're going to come to this halfway point. It's probably going to be a fair amount of sensation here, but we're not going to be here too long. Pressing into both of your legs, and breathe. And then come back up to seated. Whew. Now we're going to come into a side bend on the left. So your left elbow down, your right is going to start to come up toward the ceiling. And then just take some tiny pulses on the side. See if you can't keep your right elbow moving towards the ceiling. And then hold. Left elbow toward the floor, right elbow at least in the direction of the ceiling. Coming back up to seated, releasing your hands from your arms. You're going to extend that right leg out in front. And this is kind of a stanky leg pose. That's what I like to call it. Bring your left knee towards your right knee. So your left foot, I can do this. Your left foot, no matter what my face is doing, is on the floor. It's a weird position. It's like, what just happened to my legs? But we don't get into this you know, position in our hips very often. So trying to sit up straight, keeping that right toe activated. Breathe in here. Nice. Coming back in, bringing both soles of the feet to the floor, coming back through center. You can windshield wiper your legs from side to side here. One more wide leg, fold. So again, you can take your feet as wide as you like. It's okay if you have a bend in your knee. It's okay if you have pillows under your knees. You're here, you're showing up, you're doing it. That's all that matters. Feet are kept active. And again, you're going to take your hands out in front. You can start with your fingertips on the floor. You can work towards getting your elbows or your forearms on the ground. The more you activate your feet and push your thighs towards the back of the room, the more you're going to be able to get a little bit deeper in this pose. Maybe bringing your forehead to the floor. Walking your hands back up. And then we're just going to take some little pulses. You're going to come over to the left side and just pulse forward. Walking your hands back through the center over to the right side. Pulse here for a moment. One more time on each side. I haven't forgotten about the left side yet. Coming back through center, moving over to the right. Yeah. Nice. And then bring it back up. We're going to come into that 90-90 on the left side. Sitting up straight, bring your hands behind your head, and we're going to come down to this halfway point. You should, again, you're going to feel some tension in probably both legs, but definitely your left. And just pulse here. And hold for 3, 2, and 1. Come back up to seated. And then we're going to take some side bends and pulse. Again, right arm comes, or right elbows towards the floor, left elbow towards the ceiling. Coming into some pulses, really stretching through the left side body. And then hold. So you can't pull that left elbow towards the ceiling just a tiny bit more. Probably feeling this in your shoulders. It's where you're supposed to be feeling it. Coming back up to center, releasing your arms. Maybe you need a shoulder roll. I did. Then you're going to start to put your weight into your left side, and you're going to bring your ankle off the ground. And then release. Do this a few more times. Remember, this stuff is kind of weird, so if you're like, I don't know, just keep at it. You'll be able to do it. Last one, we're going to hold at the top. Breathe, really pushing through your heel here. And then release. Again, you may really need to come onto this left side for this. You're going to lift that leg off the floor. You're working the outside of your hip here. And breathe. And then release. Coming back to center. Soles of your feet go to the floor. We'll windshield wiper our legs from side to side. Coming down onto your back. Bringing your knees into your chest. Ooh, just made all kinds of noises. Bring your soles of your feet to the floor, either grabbing the outside part of your feet or the inside of your thighs. Just adding a little bit more pressure along your spine for a nice spinal release. And then just releasing or pushing your feet toward the ceiling. You can do this up against the wall as well. This actually helps release your lower back and through your legs, especially if you have the support of a wall. It also takes some pressure off of your heart. It can lead to lower blood pressure just because your heart's not having to pump quite as hard. I mean, that along with like some, healthy eating and breathing and just breathe here for a moment. Again, bringing your knees into your chest. And then just the last couple minutes, we're gonna tighten up into a ball if you can for that progressive muscle release tension. Tensing any muscles that you possibly can, your glutes, your knees, everything. As you inhale and as you exhale, just release everything back down to the mat. We'll do that one more time. So you can bring your knees into your chest. You can cross your ankles, whatever you like to do best. Pulling your forehead and your shoulders, curling into a little bitty ball. Flexing, tensing any muscles that you possibly can as you inhale. And then exhale. Just release everything back down to the mat. Let your shoulders be heavy on the mat or on your floor, wherever you're at for a moment. Just allow the weight of your body to sink in, just to ground you for the next few moments. You can place a hand on your chest and on your diaphragm and just watch the natural rise and fall of your breath. Anytime you need to come back down or you're feeling anxious, throwing your feet at the wall. If you don't want to do that, come to this. Hand on your chest, hand on your diaphragm, and just follow your breath. Just notice it. You don't have to do, it's not any kind of weird exercise or meditation. Just stay with your breath for a moment. And then when you're ready, you can come back up to a seated position. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Let me know if you, again, if you want anything else. I think on Thursday we're going to do more of like a restorative practice. So that means um, like a nap, but with a little bit of movement. But I'm open for any kind of suggestions. Please check in with us and let us know that you're doing well. We're all in this together. And yeah, it's just really great to see all of you show up. And if any of you need anything, feel free to reach out. I'm on Facebook, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.